let me paper pop it for all the wrong reasons. The college football playoff reportedly will expand to 14 teams in the year of our Lord 2026. Now, you may ask yourself, we haven't even had a 12-team year, have we? No, we haven't. Is that a problem for you? I'm sorry, is that a problem for anyone? Yeah, here's what's happening. According to Pete Thamlin, the folks over at ESPN, tomorrow a formality will be signed off on. It's merely a formality at this point that the Power Four conferences and the G5s and Notre Dame, they've got all the signatures they need. And so we're going to a 14-team playoff. Format yet to be decided. What they were trying to decide on was who gets what money. That's really what they were trying to decide upon. Or let me translate more thoroughly for you. A few people are about to make a whole lot more money than they were already making. You'll see none of it, and the prices for everything associated with college football will continue to go up anyway, because those two things never correlated. So your parking going to cost more, your tickets cost more, your concessions won't go, nothing will go down because they're making more money. That's why I've never really cheered these folks on. Anyway, I figured it's time to get scientific tonight because you've listened to me rail against this for too long. And I'm not going to really take a whole lot of the show tonight and do that. Maybe just a little bit of the show, because I know a lot of you have come over here. Some of you are angry. Others are happy because you wanted this and you just want to see me wallow in misery. Either way, it's constructive. That there are worse ways to spend a Thursday night, I will admit. But I wanted to get scientific on this today. And as we all know, like Meemaw used to always tell me, Joshua, if you really want scientific evidence, run a poll on Twitter. She used to always tell me that. So I go over to my account earlier today, which is not biased at all. It's a perfect cross-section of America, and I just put it to you like this. This college football playoff, 14 teams. Do you like it? Do you not like it? I got to give you guys credit. You used to fight me on this. You used to defend the expanded playoff. At least most of you did. I was once upon a time in the minority on this. On my own show, I was in the minority. Amongst my own people, I was in the minority. Well, as of 5/21 today, that thing's got over 7,000 votes. 73% of you do not like it. Now, of course, some of you may not like it just because you don't know the details. Some of you may not like it because you would prefer for it to stay at 14, but you just wish they took the top 14 teams. I'm going to ignore all that. I'm just going to pretend every one of you are on board with me now and what we've been singing on this show for a long time. You remember... How long ago would it have been? It would have been several years ago when they started talking about expanding past 4 teams. When they started talking about expanding the college football playoff past 4 teams, I was pretty loud in my displeasure, and a lot of people made fun of me for it. It's just a college football opinion, like no one's losing their life at the end of the day over it, I get it. But when they started talking about expanding it beyond 4, I was very, very outspoken. And the reason was... because I realized I don't think a lot of the general college football public understands how little the people in that room truly care about college football. I love it. You love it. You wouldn't be watching a show or going to the games if you didn't love it. There was this blind assumption that these people are fighting to expand the playoff because they love the same thing I love. They don't. They couldn't care less about it. They do care about money. It's not the first time that's ever been uttered. It just happened to wander its way into the college football neighborhood now. Back in the day, we didn't have a playoff at all. And a lot of folks who were very money hungry looked and said, we got a great thing over there. That college football thing's great. Look, there's no leadership. Let's just go build an ATM and make money off of it. Now, we can't call it an ATM. The people will revolt. What should we call it? We need a name for it. It's going to print us money. What should we? Let's call it a playoff. Let's convince them they need it. And they convinced everyone, or enough people, that they needed it. And you know what? Candidly, back in the day, I was on board with a 4-team playoff. But then quickly you realized, they're already talking about expanding it. It took them a little while, but they're already talking about expanding again. And the same people are negotiating with the same networks to make more and more money that I'm not going to see any of. I don't care about your ratings. I don't care about how many zeros are on the end of your media rights deal. I don't see any of it. Hey, I just want a quality product. And the more I got into our side of the business, the more I realized, dude, these people couldn't care less about the integrity, sanctity, tradition, pageantry. They don't even know how to spell those words. They especially don't care about them. And I realized, hold up now, they're talking about expanding this thing to not 6, not 8. It went right to 12. And I realized there is no end in sight, because if you take away the love, The love for the sport is really the only safeguard that we have built inside of us to make sure we don't do something terrible to the sport. Well, if you don't have that in you, and by the way, expanding a playoff further and further makes you more and more money, why would you ever think these people are going to stop? They never were going to stop. You see, it became apparent when they started negotiating to expand past 4. And that's why I personally, can't speak for anyone else, but that's why I yelled across every mountaintop I could about it at the time, because I knew once we take a step on the slope over there, it's far too slippery to gain our traction. We're gone, at least on this forefront. And here you are. Now, what I've seen overwhelmingly in sentiment is a lot of you who supported expansion have come to the realization that you were supporting the same things that some of these people were supporting, but you're finding out really quickly you didn't have the same motivation. And whereas you assumed, oh, they'll stop at this point or this point, the bus is still going 50 miles an hour picking up speed, and you're saying, whoa, no, I didn't agree to go any further than this. Yeah, you did. When you got on it and you sat down, you agreed to it, whether you knew it or not. So it'll be awesome. It'll be awesome, that expanded playoff. This is the one thing I wanted to hit, because we talked about this on the Late Kick Extra Pod the other day, but I didn't touch on this aspect of it, and I wanted to. So the details of this thing are still being ironed out. If you're wondering what happened, who gets how many auto bids, that didn't get sorted out. They don't really particularly care about that as much as they cared about who makes the most money. And it looks or sounds like they got that sorted out, and it looks like the SEC and the Big Ten are going to take home a lot more money than the other guys, because as I told you the other night, the SEC and the Big Ten were dead serious in saying, you agree to this or we're walking and we're going to do our own thing. That was not a negotiation tactic. They were fully prepared to do that, and they had networks on board ready to do that. More on that in a second. So anyway, anytime I've ever entered into arguments or debates about expanding the college football playoff, one of the usual go-tos from the expansionist crowd has always been, how can you deny how great this will be? The playoff will be wonderful. And I just sit there and listen, and when they get done, I say, what are you refuting? I never said it wouldn't be awesome. And they're like, but you're against college football playoff expansion. That's correct. Why are you against it? Because I don't think it's good for college football. But you just admitted the playoff will be awesome. That's true. The playoff itself will be awesome. A 12-team or even a 14-team playoff is going to feature some pretty incredible matchups. And we're going to have home playoff games. So they're going to happen in some pretty incredible charged venues. That's not chapter 1 of the book. If that were all there was to it, if we didn't play a regular season and we just randomly put teams in a playoff and that was it, that was the beginning, middle, and end, it'd be wonderful. That's not college football. Never has been. Hopefully, fingers crossed, never will be. You cannot, in any scenario, expand that playoff and replace the importance of that playoff and not take it away from something else. I don't care what argument you give me. I've been through all of them, guys. I know what the counterpoints to this are. I know that if we have more playoff spots, it puts more playoff emphasis on more games and makes more games more meaningful at the end of the year. No, what it does is it just does this bait and switch, and it puts importance on different games. Now, here's what everyone admits. Everyone, even the expansionist crowd, admits this probably won't change who wins the championships, but it's not about the destination. It's about the journey, which is, to me, stupid, because a playoff is about crowning a champion to me. That's just me. I'm not calling you stupid. I'm saying if you think that, I think the opinion is pretty stupid. But we can agree to disagree on that. But my point remains, okay, if you guys are focused at the end of the day on crowning a champion, and you admit the same champs are going to be crowned, here's what you've done in the aggregate. You're admitting the big boys are still the big boys. So any given year, like your Georgias or Bamas or Ohio States or whatnot, they're still going to be the ones that you admittedly think are going to be there at the end of the day. Here's what you've done, though. If Georgia loses a game early this year, what you've told me is, yeah, they can afford to lose a couple. Ohio State can afford to lose a couple. They're still going to be in. We're taking the importance off of the games. We're taking the urgency off of the games that feature the only teams actually capable of winning the title, by your own admission, and we're going to place it on Oklahoma State versus Iowa State, trying to lock down an 11 seed. Does that make sense to anybody? I know what you're trying to say, because you assume, oh, those Ohio State, Bama, Georgia games, they'll always have meaning just like they always have, but now we'll have more games with meaning. Yeah, those new games have meaning. The other ones don't, because you just built a giant safety net under them. Anyway, that's for fans to argue. Like, I got a lot of buddies who support college football playoff expansion, and I know good and well when they lay their head on their pillow at night, they love the sport like I do. They just differ in opinion on what's better for it. What I'm trying to tell you is that the people whose signatures are actually going to go on that piece of paper tomorrow, in many cases, do not care. They care about totally different things. And the way I know that is because I keep reading some of the really, really good reporting being done on this, and I know a lot of the sourcing is being fed to various reporters from that room, from those people, and I haven't heard a word about fans. I haven't heard a word about players. Dude, when's the last time you ever read any reporting quoting anonymous sources about doing this in the name of crowning a champion? Do you know how long it's been since any of these people even thought about the purpose of the playoff mechanism, which, by the way, is to crown a champion? It is so far in the back of their minds, they can't even find it. It's much more about revenue distribution. It's much more about who gets auto bids, therefore who cashes the biggest check. It's never been about college football as you and I define college football, which has always been at the core my biggest complaint. I can argue with someone who wants expansion if they really just think it's better for college football. These folks, they don't even meet the prerequisite. I did want to draw your attention to one thing. You're going to see a lot of reporting on this tomorrow, and you're going to see that this has been signed off on, and we all expect that to happen. So you're going to see that there's this clause in there. It's called a look-in clause. It's going to be built, I believe, in 2028. And what that is, and I don't want to gloss this over because according to some folks I've talked to, this could be very, very important. That 2028 look-in clause affords everyone the opportunity to basically check in 4 years or 3 years or 2 years really into the deal. And, you know, if someone doesn't like the way it's going, they can reevaluate or, quote, according to Pete Thamel, the timeline can be accelerated if conference realignment happens. I don't know when. I don't know where. Well, I think I do know where. I don't know when, but I think it's coming pretty quickly. So I don't necessarily know, even though we've got a framework that's about to be signed off on, there's going to be language in that framework that renders it potentially moot or, you know, able to be crumbled up and thrown in the nearest garbage can if some things that I think are inevitable come to pass. So who knows how long this thing really is that we're signing off on, but I say we. I'm not signing off on anything. But we were watching it get signed off on, and that's where we are right now. And it's going to be a happy day for some people in expensive suits tomorrow.